Greetings, Joe Davis here from Southern New Hampshire University, Justice 224 Legal Research. Today we're going to talk about Week 2, Module 2, and this is just a very brief overview that you'll find in the Blackboard shell under the weekly overview. But I wanted to make sure I went through a few things with you. It talks about in the book and in the material, how do we begin this process of legal research? And of course, in a perfect world or in an old-fashioned world, we would have gone to the law library. And the reasons are that there are a lot of books there. They have now online resources available there. And it's usually not practical for us. You may have a law library near you that you have access to, and that's great. One of the key things about this, though, is that there are reference librarians there. And that's what's especially valuable, I think, to those of us that are doing research or learning to do research. So what resources are available to you here at Southern New Hampshire University? Well, we have the Shapiro Library, and you can go to that library on campus, absolutely. But it's also available to you online. Everything's available that's in that library to you online. There are also resource guides, that the librarians have put together for each major, for each class, so you'll see where we have things available to us. And yes, there are reference librarians, and I cannot emphasize enough that you need to go to the Shapiro Library, and on that very first page there will be how to contact by email or phone a librarian to help you. So if you think you're stuck, I try to answer your emails the same day. They're there 24/7, I believe. And so they can walk you through and help you. So please, please, please use the Shapiro Library. And the added note to that is, and you're going to hear me harp on this throughout the class, this is a research methods class. It's unlike probably any other class you've had in college. And that's, we're not studying a subject where you'll read the chapter and you'll do the discussion board, and then there'll be a quiz and a midterm exam, and you write a paper all about the topic. Perhaps as an example, I teach a class on corrections. So today we're going to study community corrections. That's not what we're going to do in this class. We're going to learn new skills, critical thinking skills. You're going to learn how to do research. And so don't shortcut it. Don't use Google. Don't use Wikipedia. Don't use the books you have at the office. Don't rely on your intuitive knowledge from your profession. What you're trying to learn is how to do each of these steps for legal research. And I say that because it will certainly help you in all the rest of your classes, but it also is exactly what you're going to be graded on here. So follow the steps, baby steps at the beginning, and you'll be quite surprised how far we come in the past. Okay, so how do we find law? Well, in our scenario, and in week 1 and in the mini lecture for week 1, I encouraged you to read that case study so that you understand it. We have to pick out a couple of facts. So let's take you actually have to have 5 legal issues. So let's take the first thing that we're going to look at is easy. Victor shot Private Dan. Well, we know inherently or just intuitively that that's not right. Our upbringing, our knowledge tells us it's got to be against the law to shoot somebody. The question becomes, what law is violated? So which source law controls the outcome? All right? It can also be called the mandated law. It can also be called the controlling law. Well, you're going to find that in a couple of ways, and the first is the primary authority. Primary authority are statutes, and I will talk about those in a second. And the second are secondary authorities, where you may not know exactly where to look. So the simple example of Victor shot Dan would walk through a scenario like this. Primary authority is the law itself. It is statutory law. It's created by federal and state constitutions and by federal and state legislatures that pass laws. There's also primary authority in case laws, and that's where the courts, perhaps all the way to the United States Supreme Court, have ruled on the facts of a case and the interpretation of the law involved in the case and set precedent. So we have case law, we have statutory law, and then the book talks about this. It's just good to know. It won't really be part of what we do. But there are administrative rules and regulations, and there are agency case decisions. So those might be like the FAA or the FCC or something, where they have regulations. I'm a licensed private investigator in California, so okay, there are administrative rules and regulations, and there are within that agency case decisions. So at least now you know what they are. You don't need to worry about them for this class. And then finally, there are local ordinances. You will have one assignment where the discussion of local ordinances, and that's where your city council or your county board of supervisors or commissioners, whatever they're called, pass a law. So those are the examples. So the primary authority I already mentioned is mandatory authority, and when you find the primary authority, you must follow it. Secondary authority or secondary sources is where you really don't know. You say, yeah, I know Victor shot Private Dan, and I guess that's a murder or an attempt murder or an assault with a deadly weapon. I just don't know. All right, you can go to secondary sources, and they are legal encyclopedias, legal dictionaries, legal treatises, legal journals, law school articles, where you can begin to build a general knowledge, and you can research and say, well, gosh, let me go to the legal dictionary and look up assault with a deadly weapon. Now, it's not going to give you the New Hampshire law. It's going to give you a generic definition. Let me look up attempt murder or attempted murder. Same thing. Let me look up homicide. So you can do those kinds of research. The legal encyclopedias will give you, in essence, the story. It will give you the cases, and then it'll have a link to the primary source. And so you'll learn to use these. As an example, well, we'll get to a couple examples. Secondary authority is helpful because it cites back. I just said that. According to our little outline, the overview for this class, American jurisprudence and American law reports are two examples, and they tell you about how courts have previously ruled. Okay, so you can find case and legal issues similar to yours. So we know we have this case where Victor shot Dan, so we just need to make sure we find another case that has similar laws. Again, in that overview, it talks about state and federal websites. The Thomas site is primarily a federal website, so if you really want to look up federal laws, you can do that there very easily. The Shapiro Library has databases already. The publisher of our textbook, NOLO, has a wonderful website that's easy to use. And you can use Google Scholar. That's significantly different. But I would strongly encourage you to take this chance, or this opportunity, to use the library. Okay, let me see if I can take us to the learning module here. And get this a little bigger maybe so you can actually see it or read it or understand what it says. Okay, so this is module 2, and you find this by going over here on the left side, clicking on the learning module, and then you come down here and you find module number 2, and you open that up. And so here is the module overview, which is really what we're talking about. And those are the things that I just talked about in the last few minutes here, okay? There's a link to the Shapiro Library. Here's a link to the resource guides. So all you have to do is open this up, click that link, and it'll take you directly where you need to go. And you're going to have to spend some time literally fiddling around playing with it so that you get used to it. It's just a new tool, that's all. Here are some others, the databases that are available if you want to actually look and see what kind of resources are available to students at Southern New Hampshire. It's very extensive. The NOLO site that I mentioned, just one of the ones that was mentioned in Google Scholar. So you have the links to all three. As it says in this last paragraph, moving forward into Module 3, you'll learn how to identify and analyze specific legal issues that you need to research. This is an extremely important part of research process, as you will never be able to determine the proper answer if you're focusing your efforts in the wrong direction. All right? After this little mini lecture, I'll record another one, or there will be another one available for you, where I will walk you through Module 2, Week 2's written assignment, 2-2, which is actually milestone 1. All right, so that you'll see how all of this works out. With that said, let's go back for just a moment to the Shapiro Library. And there's where it would open up and take you to. And so you can now search in this search box, just like on Google, and you can put in there anything you want. But you notice how right away it says if you need help, find out more from Summon Multi-Search, view search tips, or ask a librarian. So all you do is click on that, and it takes you to an email for the librarian. Okay, they are there to help you. That's what they love to do, is research. And you can also see the hours of the library and how to get information over here on the left. So there are all of those. Now let's get rid of this. Oops, I went too far too fast. We'll go back and we'll go to these resource guides. You can see here on the left side there are business law, criminal justice, and justice studies. Okay, our class is still in the Justice Studies programs, so it says Welcome to Justice Studies Research Guides. And that means they've predetermined a whole list of things, of resources that you may want to use. Okay, and so here's a little video that shows you how to use it and what to do, or you can just open it up and get going. And you'll notice this box, they can get a book, a resource, a journal from any library, well, any academic library in the United States. There's always some limit. So now you've gotten a chance to at least see and get a little bit out of the library. I want to take you down here to the next box where it says Reading and Research, and the website says Free Legal Research. Research sites. Okay. This is from the George Mason School of Law, a very reputable law school. And when you look, here are things that says free internet research, resources available. So if you want to look up state laws, you can go to state laws, and it should give you a list of states where you can find it. So here, these are Virginia materials. You can use FindLaw, Google Scholar. This is the Cornell School of Law Learning Institute's link. There are all kinds of resources that are already here. If you want journal articles, so you can read about them, dictionaries, okay? So that's all just laid out, easy peasy. Legal Information Institute, LII. This is from the Cornell University School of Law, and I would encourage you to at least try this once. All of these other sources are great. They're all easy to use. This may be one of the easiest. And what's interesting about this one is it has a dictionary in it, so you can actually type in a term and look it up, but it also has a legal encyclopedia. And so you can see I've highlighted it, and then if we move over here we can find criminal law. So let's just try homicide and see what comes up. We'll give it a whirl. So here is the beginning of articles. There's just a straight definition. Homicide is when one human being causes the death of another. Not all homicide is murder. So that tells you about it. So we could put in vehicle homicide. I was going to look here quickly. I don't see it. That's okay. All right. So that should give you some help and give you an idea there. All right. In the next session, I will walk you through activity 2-2, which is your final project milestone number 1. It is going to be a draft section. Each of your papers, in the 3 papers that you'll write during this class, are the first 3 parts of your final paper. So at least in theory, if not in practicality, you can cut and paste those 3 papers into your final paper, assuming you did a good job on them, you made any corrections. I hope this is helpful to you. Keep the cards and letters coming, and I look forward to our next visit.